Dear all, my name is Elvira Petro, and I'm a student in Master of Science in Translation and Interpretation Studies in Flora University. This will be a little presentation of my research proposal entitled Virtual Labs, a New Assessment Tool in the Field of Interpreting in the 21st Century. So in the century we live, which is otherwise called the Internet era, there is a growing demand for student learning assessment which focuses on the students' needs for improvement and concurrently on the need of teachers to improve their own methodology, student learning process, and the curriculum of the subject. One major problem why the assessment tool technique had received very little attention was the lack of involvement of teaching and administrative staff of university in building and improving appropriate methods of assessment from which students and professors would benefit. The PhD Martha Stason quotes in a letter directed to all instructors of the University of Massachusetts that the improvement of assessment technique and its implementation would lead to the following: clarification of teaching goals and what the teachers want students to learn, would allow students to have a better understanding of the teacher's anticipation. It would create bridges of communication with the students. Students would become more active and completely engaged in the learning process. And lastly, teachers have the possibility to modify and arrange the course progress by observing the student's progression. The development of new strategies for assessment in the field of interpretation in Albania is a huge challenge that has not been in focus of many professors, mainly due to financial difficulties as far as the building of a lab is concerned. The University of Flora and the professor of interpreting courses have undertaken this challenge, thus establishing the foundations of a virtual lab as a new assessment tool in the educational aspect. Assessment. In a publication of the Office of Academic Planning and Assessment of University of Massachusetts, it is defined as carefully planned, organized, and analyzed information with the purpose of improving student learning process. So, assessment, in general terms, assessment refers to grade and evaluate the course assignments and to any activity which is planned to gather data in the course of educational program. Nevertheless, the authors of this handbook agree on the fact that the aforementioned uses of the assessment tools have distracted professors from the real scope that an assessment tool should have, that is, of collecting information with the purpose to improve the curricula and the practice. Moreover, in the field of interpretation studies, where the demands for new competent interpreters are growing bigger, the theoretical aspect in its assessment is neither enough nor sufficient. In one of her papers, Professor Prifty, the interpreting course instructor at University of Flora, Albania, would present her innovative idea for the need of designing new assessment instruments to measure student performance in consecutive and simultaneous interpreting. This new measurement tool aimed to function as a measuring tool for entrance level of Albanian students who had English as their second language. It also aimed to work as a measuring tool for 2 midterm exams and a final exam. And lastly, it aimed the establishment of this assessment tool as an adequate and an accurate tool for nationwide services and organizations which are in need of good quality interpreters. Students are being assessed, but sometimes it is excluded the real objective and goals an assessment tool should possess, that is, promote learning. That is why some scholars agree that when one designs an assessment task as a learning task, it should be designed in a way which engages the student fully in the process of learning. Hence, a long-time project, which are characterized by productiveness and constructiveness, would undoubtedly result effective and concurrently will help in the progression of the student's skills and knowledge. Michelson has supports that it has the necessity for establishment of a credential and valid process which will set the standards of interpreter competence and ensure the clients the required quality has arisen nowadays. So as one may notice, the assessment tools are indispensable and highly required for any kind of service, and specifically in the field of interpreting studies. Kalina places emphasis on the educational aspect, and the author declares that the interpreter preparation should receive the proper attention and training due to an interpreter must cope with stress, time constraints, and must handle them in their best appropriate manner. The object of assessment should be established into three aspects: linguistic, communication skills, and public speaking aspects. The survey that was carried out by the instructor of interpreting courses at University of Laura, and which prepared the foundations of a new measurement instrument, beside the grade assessment, aimed the acquisition and development of the aforementioned interpreter competencies through a well-established student learning process. The results of this survey are expected to be positive in the field of educational assessment as well as in promoting and motivating student learning process, because it does not only aim the grading of students, but simultaneously it works as a promoter of their ideas and creativity and helps them in the process of interpreter competence acquisition. The students' result will be different in various stages, but there will be an obvious improvement because they will be presented with methods and techniques during their interpretation course. So in some way, this measurement tool does not only grade them, but stimulate their learning and engages them thoroughly in the process. One other thing to be mentioned is the critical and scientific thinking, because beside the practical part, there is a scientific research which engages students in long-term projects and cooperative ones, thus enhancing their skills and promoting their innovative ideas in the field of translation and interpretation studies. So it is an observational research based on this database of the virtual lab of interpreting studies in the University of Laura, Albania, and the subject of study are 18 postgraduate students who are asked to submit their weekly assignment, and they are also asked to perform their midterm exam and final exam in front of a computer in remote distance from their instructor without consulting a dictionary, thus making them work in real conditions, not in experimental ones. So the structure of this assessment tool aims to grade the students not only in their exams but also in their weekly assignments, thus stimulating their competencies and at the same time be a valuable tool in helping their learning process. So the object of assessment is in two directions, in the performance of interpreter and the quality of output. But many scholars and researchers still argue that there are problems as far as reliability and validity of such assessments are taken into consideration, because the administration and the test examination in this field depend on professional experience of academic staff rather than on empirical studies. Therefore, the construction of course syllabus, which should function as a communication bridge between the course instructor and the students, and the predefinition of the course expectations, goals, and requirements, is asked to get live. So, as I mentioned previously, in the field of translation and interpretation studies, interpreters are tested in two directions, so in their interpreting performance and the quality of interpretation. But still, there has been limited research in the area of assessment tool in interpreting, mainly due to the little number of worldwide formal courses, and these researchers also attribute the lack of assessment tools to the intuitive nature of test design and to the fact that they do not rely on reasoning or observation, as well as to the assessment criteria the instructor has predefined. If one would consult the literature review on various tests that have been used as a measurement tool in interpreting, one would see that they are mainly entry aptitude tests, certification examination, testing related to interpreter training courses, and quality assessment of interpreter performance. Thus, their reliability and validity is a debatable issue, especially in the certification examination, because there is an accreditation, but there is no examination in this skill. So assessing a student is not a simple procedure because it is not limited only to giving a grade, but the teacher should be able to use his or her strategies of assessment in order to guide and improve students' learning. So a teacher is there to build a student's strength instead of allowing them to be captured in their weakness. Assessment can be divided or can be classified into further categories. It can either be formative or summative, that is to say, it can either function with the purpose to use the results of the assessment in order to improve the student learning and the course syllabus, or measure the student's skills and knowledge at the end of the educational program. Round 3 would also present two other types, which are continuous and terminal assessment, but one should not identify neither the formative with the continuous assessment nor the summative with the terminal one. He would claim that the student's assessment should be the result of one's long way from the beginning of the course until the end. And this observational research points out the effectiveness and the validity and reliability the virtual lab has an assessment tool, as well as its effectiveness in the process of student learning. Monitoring and evaluation are two main criteria which would accompany the existence of this virtual lab, which does not only have an indisputable impact on the instructor and the course syllabus progression, but also it has an undeniable impact on the student's learning process. It presents a new technological measurement method which is expected to be transparent and reliable, since the student's progression has been recorded and the assessor is a competent and specialist of linguistic and translation and interpretation studies. So formative and summative assessments are both very important, but the former has been considered as an ongoing and continuous cycle in which teachers and students use information with the purpose to improve on the next following steps of the curricula. And this is the main objective of this virtual lab, which is the subject of study in this paper. Besides assessing students with a grade during the course, it places its emphasis in the development of interpreter linguistic and performance skills, and concurrently it aims at the development of critical thinking.